I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 358. Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all my dear friends all over the world. I hope you're having a beautiful day so far. Today, I'm going to talk to you about one of my clients that just finished my group program and how she has learned how to handle emotional hunger and emotional holes. Which reminds me to tell you that our new group doors will be opening soon. And if you want to be in this next group, then please go to drdebbutler.com/peace, PEAC, and get on the wait list so you'll be the first to be able to sign up and get all the information. I don't know if you know this about me, but one of the things that I love to do is I love certain birds. I love all birds, but there's specific birds that give me this unbelievable feeling inside. And one of those birds are eagles. And there's certain places I've learned over the years where the eagles hang out around me during the winter. And most of those places are at least an hour or so away from me. I see them occasionally around me, but I go specifically to a certain place, which is over an hour away, just to see them and feel them. Well, this is an interesting story because I did a podcast and I wrote a newsletter one time on be prepared to be surprised. And the reason I wrote that is that no matter how old you are, you think you might know what's going to happen next. You think you have all your plans in place. You think you know everything. But as you get older, I'm hoping you realize that the older you get, the less you know. And the more you can be prepared to be surprised for things that might amaze you, exhilarate you, delight you, that you had no idea about. And I used that specific example about my son's 39th birthday and the surprise of watching him grow up, the surprise of him having 3 grandchildren and being such an unbelievable father, husband, and of course, a son. But I'm kind of surprised. I had my own ideas of how all this was going to turn out. And the way that it has turned out so far is surprising and delightful. And I wrote a whole newsletter on it because it fills me with such joy just thinking about him and his birthday specifically. And now I have this thing with eagles. And I really thought at this point in time in my life that I knew where most of the eagles were around the area where I live. And I knew that in order to see the most amount of eagles, I needed to drive a ways in order to see them. And then one day, my husband, Michael, comes home and says, "You aren't going to believe what I just saw and found." 15 minutes from our house, there's a man-made walking trail, but he said, because he likes to ride the trail around there on his bike, and he went past it one time, or this past time, and he thought he saw some eagles. So he actually got off his bike and went over to this walking trail and started walking it. And he saw a lot of eagles and started sending me videos of eagles perched up in trees. Like I'm telling you, more than 10 on this one particular time. Well, he was so excited and he couldn't wait to tell me. And now what I'm telling you is this happened a while ago, and now one of my favorite new places to go and hike is only 15 minutes from my house, and I can see more eagles there than I've ever seen in my life. And that is surprising and amazing and exhilarating and so delightful. But the biggest thing is it's surprising because I thought I knew the area. I thought I knew the trails. I thought I knew all the trails and I thought I knew my favorite trails. And I learned something new and it surprised and delighted me. And that's where I'm going today is to see how many eagles I'm going to see today. Because now that I've got my new walking trail, I have never seen so many eagles, and I can't wait to see how many I feel. I feel them when I'm with them. I feel them. I feel like I'm connected to them. And it's such a delightful feeling inside of my body. And that's what I'm going to do today when I'm through with you. So that's not really what I'm talking about today, but I always want to remind you to be prepared to be surprised. And no matter where you are in your life or what you're thinking about your life or what you think may or may not go down, be prepared to be surprised and be prepared to be delighted over these surprises. It's not just gloom and doom. Sometimes what you least expect is the most delightful thing that's ever happened to you. So keep that in mind that the older you get, the more surprised you can become. Now, what I'm actually talking about today is a little bit different because I want to talk about emotional hunger and emotional holes, which is not quite the thing about eagles and being prepared to be surprised, but it is about one of my students that is in the group that I just finished. And I love sharing experiences with you from my students on how they learned how to use these tools because I think it can help you too. So, one of the tools that I want to reteach to you today and then show you by example with one of my students in my group how she learned from it and grew from it and how it helped her because I think the thing that most of you want to understand the most and understand the least is how to use the emotional hunger scale. Sometimes it's really clear and really evident, and sometimes it's not. But with her, it really was. But also, I wanted to teach her the tool about being curious and not furious and then understanding how to feel an emotion and not feel an emotion with food is what she learned that I'm going to teach you today. And I want to talk about it a little bit and then I'll explain what happened with her. But when we talk about emotional hunger, really we're just talking about if you can imagine in your mind emotional holes that are in your body. So, in your physical hunger scale, it's a scale that goes from a -10 to a +10. And I encourage you to eat between the twos. Start at a -2, which is a light whisper of hunger, and a +2, which is a light feeling of feeling satisfied and full. But you could go out and you could go for a walk. You don't feel like taking a nap because you can fill big holes or you can fill little holes with physical hunger scale. And the physical hunger scale is kind of like a representation of your stomach because your stomach actually can be stretched. So you can fill it with a lot or you can fill it with a little. And depending on what you've been doing and what it's used to is what you might call your hunger and your fullness. And so the first thing that I always teach is getting in touch with your physical hunger scale and then understanding what these twos actually feel like in your body and start using them as your hole to fill up with food. That's your physical hunger scale. It's something in your belly. We're going to just imagine it as a hole, and your belly is sort of like a hole that needs to be filled with food on a regular basis, or you will die. Physical hunger scale is something that the more you understand it, the more you feel it, the more you recognize that there's a lot of room in there. You can wait a long time to eat. You can eat way too much and you can call that full. Or you can understand that since there's a -10 to a +10, that's a long, big hole to fill. And you're only teaching yourself to fill a part of it, which is really the way your stomach was designed. It wasn't really meant to be stretched and filled. that when it's at its peak, it is like a +2. And it does feel satisfied and it does feel good. But you also realize you could eat more. And understanding that and getting in touch with that and really teaching yourself how to eat between the twos is always what we start with. So, of course, with my student and my client, this is what she understood pretty well and always working on it, as we all are. We're always working on our hunger scale, our physical hunger scale, but we don't want to question it too much and confuse ourselves. You come up with a number, and that's the number that you call it. The more that you use the physical hunger scale and write down how hungry you are and how full you are, the more in touch you get with those numbers and the more confident you get with those numbers. Now, the emotional hunger scale also looks similar if you imagine in your mind that the strongest negative emotion can go from a -10 and the strongest positive emotion can go to a +10, and that you have a lot of emotions in between. Now, when we're talking about the emotional hunger scale, the most important part of it is the negative part of it, because usually when people are eating and they're not physically hungry, they're usually having some kind of negative emotional hunger that they're trying to fill with food. And this negative emotional hunger can also just be called a hole. And it feels like a hole in your body, but it's not physical hunger. So once you understand physical hunger and you understand what that's like to fill it up with food, you're able to start asking yourself the question when you think that you're hungry, are you physically hungry? And you can ask that question to yourself first. That's the purpose of food journaling. And then once you understand the answer to that, like you know you're not hungry, but you want to eat, then we're looking in the emotional terrain or the emotional hunger scale. And one of the things that I teach all the time is you'll never eat out of positive emotion. Even though you could be in a very, very happy situation, if you're eating when you're not hungry, you're going against the physical response of your body that's telling you to stop eating. When you go past that, it will be a negative emotion that will drive you to do that. It won't feel good, even if you're in a happy situation. So, what I want to explain to you is about the student that I was working with in this last group. And one of the things that she was really working on is that she said that she came from a family that really didn't talk about emotions, and she wasn't sure that she really could feel them. And I know a lot of people talk to me about that they're not sure what the emotion is when they're eating. They're not sure about a lot of things. But one of the things that I'm teaching her and that I'm telling you is that just think of the emotional hunger scale as a whole that goes from a 0 to a -10. -10 will be your strongest emotion that you can feel, be it anger, frustration, or just an urge. Urges are also emotional hunger, and they're holes in the body that also want to be filled. They feel like they need to be filled. And really, what they want is they want to be felt, not filled. But if you've been a dieter all your life and you've been eating food when you're not hungry, then one of the things that you probably have in your brain pretty solidly are neural pathways that say, I feel emotionally bad, I need to eat. And those pathways are pretty laid out in your brain that feels like something that maybe you're even thinking to yourself that you're physically hungry until you start listening to my podcast or working with me and really seeing the difference between these, which is what she got to see when she was working with me. And all the women got to see her work with these emotions in the group, which helped them understand their emotions better and are they feeling it or feeling it. But with her, one of the things that she said that she's just not sure she ever really has known how to feel her emotions. So she's been food journaling for a while, getting pretty excited about all the awareness that she's been having. She's been losing weight, and that has delighted and surprised her because She doesn't feel restricted, and she does feel like she's being aware of her own hunger scale and filling it. And so, one of the times when I was coaching her, she was really upset when she got on the call. And she said, I know this is what I need to talk about. And what she went on to explain is that she had had something going on in her work that she was very, very stressed about. And on the day that we were having our group call, she had had another phone call with this person. And she had a lot of fear when she was talking to this person. And I'm telling you that was the emotion that she was feeling. And when she got off the phone with this person, she went directly to her kitchen cabinet and ate half of a baguette. She would say she loves baguettes and she loves bread. That's what she would say. But she knew when she did her food journal, she was very, very aware that there was no hunger, no physical hunger going on. And she really wanted to talk it through with me, and she was really upset with herself. So, this was a perfect example of somebody who's food journaling, who ate when they're not hungry, and who also knew that something was going on, but she couldn't see it because she was so upset with herself. So, what I took her through is actually we went through the model of her mind of what caused the feeling. And really, she was just scared of what was going to happen from this confrontation with her client. And her action was that she ate a half a baguette when she wasn't hungry at all. And she wanted to understand it without being upset. So when we use the tool, be curious, not furious, we step back from it and first we understand what actually went on in her head. And what went on in her head is that this feeling of fear that she had ended up being also what we call emotional hunger. And when I asked her how strong it was, from a negative 10 to a 0, which is exactly what I want you when you become curious and you see yourself eating something when you're not physically hungry. How big is this urge or this hole that needs to be filled? Now, she numbered this. She's been used to numbering emotional hunger now and physical hunger. And she gave it a -8, really big, strong hole. And now she could see that because she understands emotional holes. And she also has understood from her food journals and being coached by me over the 14 weeks that we worked, is that she also had negative emotional holes too that were a lot weaker, or urges that were a lot weaker, like -2s or -3s, that she could actually feel without eating. And she felt really good about it, and that's why she was starting to lose weight. And she was so upset when she saw this. But this is what I explained to her, and this is how I coached her, and this is what I want to help you understand, is that as soon as she told me a -8, we understand that that hole is a lot bigger than a lot of holes that she's experienced. And the neural pathway in her brain is so strong because the emotion is so strong that there is no logical thought processes. It's just a super highway in the brain that says, fill that hole as fast as you can. That's exactly what she did. She put that baguette in her mouth and she ate it until she finally could stop herself and go, what am I doing? And that was the day that we had the call. So, what we understood from that, as we could step back and become curious about it and not beat ourselves up over it, because it's easy for her to go, listen, I know better. I understand all of this stuff. I've been doing all this stuff and I still ate it. And what I said to her, and what I will say to you, that there will be times when those emotional holes are too big and they're too strong, and that you don't have the muscle to be able to feel them. It's too scary. Feeling them still feels less scary, which is what it was for her, until she could step back and be coached by me on that. And she could see it so clearly. And it was like a light bulb went off in her brain. She stopped being upset with herself. And she understood and had compassion for herself that she's been doing this her whole life and never knew it. And you know what else is really interesting about her? When she finished this class with me, one of the things that she said is that I never realized how much I actually ate my emotions. And I never really knew how to feel them. And now I know how to do both. And it was so energizing for her, made her feel so confident. Because this is the thing, and this is what I want you to understand, is even when you understand the tools and you understand these feelings, sometimes they're just too strong. And when they are, when you can come back to yourself, which is also another tool that I teach, is you got to be able to come back. Come back to what happened, come back to eating between the twos and moving forward. And the coaching session is what helped her come back. It's what helped her become curious and not furious. And it also has helped her learn how to feel so many emotions without eating them and understanding that sometimes when they're too strong, they're going to be eaten still, but she will be able to step back and understand it when she calms down. But she is still strengthening this muscle of how to feel instead of feel. That's what I do with all of my clients. And I want you to understand that what I'm saying to you that I did with her, you can also do for yourself. But just like her, she couldn't do it when the baguette was in her mouth. It had to be afterwards. And sometimes that's the only way it works. It has to be afterwards. But what she gleaned from that coaching afterwards will help her for the rest of her life. She will get better at it. She will get stronger at it. And when she's not, she will be able to look back and understand it and help her compassionately go through it. She will learn more and more and more that emotional holes are only meant to be felt. They're not meant to be filled with food. And then you end up creating new neural pathways in your brain that say, feel it, not fill it. But it's a practice. All of my dear, dear friends out there, this is a practice. This isn't something, even when you're through working with me, that you'll have down pat. It's just that you will understand it better and you will know what to do with it better. And you will keep strengthening these muscles, that you will keep getting stronger because you will compassionately end up staying your own best friend to say, what happened, sweetheart? Just like I did with her. It's basically, what happened, sweetheart? Took her through the model, helped her understand the fear, also helped her understand that the result of filling that fear with a baguette only made her more scared of herself, not being able to trust herself. It didn't help at all. And that's what I want for you too. So this week, I want you to start numbering your emotional holes or your emotional hunger or your urges. When they're lighter, negative twos, do you find that they're easier not to fill them? If you do fill them, what was the strength of them? And the more you do it, the more you will be able to practice feeling stronger emotions without eating them. And of course, before I leave you today, there's only one other thing that I want to say to you, because this is a big topic and I could teach it in 100 different ways. And that's what I want to do over and over again for you to get it in a way that you've never gotten it before. But know that no matter where else you go, all my dear friends, and what else you do, please, please, please use self-compassion and be kind to yourself, because that's how you can learn so much about yourself and so much about how you can help yourself. And until next week, be very, very kind. Bye-bye. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change. CHANGE.